Hello, everybody. Pastor Mike Giannopoulos from Project Re3 back here again for our weekly ministry minute. As always, these little videos just go out to my colleagues, my fellow ministers, pastors, preachers, teachers, rabbis, bishops, whatever your title may be and whatever position you hold within the church. Just a reminder that we are all in this together. And just some of my thoughts as we navigate through the virus and the COVID and the reopening, which a lot of states are going through right now. Last week, I don't know, I saw some disturbing news and it was rather heartbreaking. And maybe you saw it also. It was the announcement from World Changers. Now, if you don't know what World Changers is, it's a mission organization that every year would have multiple sites. They have teenagers come from all over the country. Most of the time you stay at a school or a church, then you go out during the day and do home repairs. World Changers has been around for 30 years. And there's several other organizations that have been around, some longer, some shorter, but the gist of them is the same. It is a youth work camp mission trip experience. I've been a part of one group mission trips, which has been around for over 40 years. It is phenomenal. And so anyway, last week, World Changers broke the news that they were not only canceling all of their trips for 2020, but they were closing down completely. That's right. There would be no more World Changer youth mission trips again. Not 2021, not 2022. The financial burden of this year was kind of this tipping point, and not being able to have camps, I guess, just kind of shut down the whole operation. It was heartbreaking. I mean, they advertised last year, and I have no idea how many camps World Changers actually pulled off, but they advertised they were doing 50 camps last year in 2019. And if you had a conservative number of 200 kids per camp, you're talking 10,000 participants that went out in this country, that went into a lot of rural areas, inner city areas, wherever, and did home repairs that were there for needy residents, whether they were elderly or couldn't do the work around their house because of financial means, but they were there. That was the church giving back. That was something that was available to our teenagers, our students, the next generation of leaders that they were able to participate in and learn in is now gone. So it got me thinking, how many more are going to go? And I don't mean just how many more work camp style mission organizations, but just how many parachurch organizations? How many churches? Because if we're really honest, there's a lot of ministries, whether it's churches, mission organizations, parachurch organizations, that aren't going to survive COVID. Now, you might look at that little small church down the street of 30 people and say, well, if they don't come back, they were small and dying anyway. But what if that small church of 30 elderly people for the last 20 years, 30 years, 40 years had been hosting a food bank 2 Saturdays a month? Who's going to fill that void? What if that little small church of 30 people down the road in your town that may not make it through this, what if one night a week, every week for the last 20 years, they had a small group that went and served at a local soup kitchen? Who's going to fill that void? We now have 50 communities that will no longer be touched by a mission organization that will have teenagers come in and serve their needy. Who's going to fill that void? It's got to be you. It's got to be your church. It's got to be me. It's got to be my church. There are going to be holes that need to be filled. Someone's going to have to step up and fill the need of World Changers. Somebody's going to have to step up and meet the need of whatever was going on in the community for that church that's not going to come back from this. So the question that we need to be asking ourselves is not necessarily what's next for these other organizations, but what's next for us? How are we going to step up? How are we going to be the ones that stand in the gap? How are we going to meet the needs of the community when there's no longer teenagers coming in from all over the country to fill that need? How are we going to step in and fill the need of the homeless shelters, the soup kitchens, the senior centers? How are we going to step in and fill those needs Well, let's face it, there's going to be a lot of holes when all this is said and done. I don't have the answers. I'm thinking through that myself with our own church. Just kind of waiting, looking for the dust to settle. What's going to happen when the unemployment runs out? What's going to happen when the government stops sending out stimulus checks? What's going to happen when there's a wave, a tsunami of need from people who are no longer able to get their needs met? Maybe in a few weeks from now, or a month from now, or 2 months from now. Will your church be ready? Will my church be ready to meet that call, to meet that need? So that's my challenge this morning, is what are we going to do? How are we going to continue the mission, continue the vision and the heartbeat from the little small church that won't survive this in your town to the massive organizations such as World Changers that's going to leave a giant void to be filled? What are we going to do as a local church to stand in the gap, to meet the needs of those whose needs were being met through these other churches and organizations?